All right, Coach Pomazak. So we're going into our final game against Wheaton Warrenville South, but let's take a second to just talk about the season and recap, because I know we wanted to spend some time focusing on the seniors this week and everything they've done. But in general, what are your thoughts on the season overall? Because it's been so different. You just finished telling me it's the longest season you've ever been a part of. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the unique season and how it's gone?
I mean, first, I just want to thank our parents and my staff and the players, because it has been a long and, difficult season. Whenever you go through a pandemic alone, which none of us have before, that can be enough to make it extremely difficult, but then throw on the added adversity of not knowing if we were going to play, going virtual for the entire month of June. And I'm just so impressed with the resiliency and grit of our players, especially our seniors. They never wavered. They took that time and actually improved. And it's shown on the football field. And then our parents have just done a great job of standing by their kids and standing by the program and allowing us to just do the best that we can. I mean, there's been a lot of tough decisions and it hasn't been perfect, but they've stood by us and we've been able to get in some games, which has been really nice. And then my staff, who has done a lot, they've done a real lot, where I've asked them to kind of constantly, be giving more and more. And it always hasn't been, a lot of it's been voluntary, whether it's virtual meetings throughout June or a July camp or fall contact days. They've rescheduled their lives to accommodate it. And, this is my job, and it's I get paid to do it, and it's easier for me to organize my life around it because that's what I'm used to. But for everybody else to kind of make it work and to be playing football in April is truly a blessing, and we have not taken advantage of the opportunity. We have really embraced it, and our kids have shown a lot of gratitude. And I'm excited to get into this last week for a lot of reasons, actually, Chris.
Yeah. When you think about everything you guys have gone through and how long it's taken to finally get to a season, what's impressed you most about your team?
The thing that's impressed me most about our team has been their resiliency and their consistency with their effort. When you ask them to prepare starting in November of 2019 for the season, and then you go all the way through a full year and you're still asking them to prepare, and they never wavered. And actually they just continually impressed me. And no matter what obstacle was put in front of them, they stayed focused. If we couldn't lift at the school, they found a way to lift somewhere else. If we couldn't meet as a group together, they found a way to do it virtually. If we couldn't practice, they found a way to get their own work done. Just an extremely, extremely motivated group of young men and women, and I could not be prouder of them. And I know that shouldn't mean anything. I hope they're proud of themselves. I've told them that at some point they may look back on this experience and it may be a real pivotal point in their life where they learned a lot of self-reliance and the ability to persevere through real adversity. We talk about adversity a lot in our program and how it looks on the football field, but it never equates to what adversity looks like in real life. And when it hits you like a punch in the face. And I think our kids have just responded in such a great way. I could not be happier with that.
Thinking about the season as a whole, who are 2, 3, or just a handful of people that have really stood out to you that have surprised you?
Well, I mean, as we go through this season, there's so many kids. I know it's our seniors' final week, and you have your starters who are your guys who play a lot, and they've done a great job. Carmine Bastone has been a great captain for us, and Zach McClure. But then you have those guys who maybe they don't get their name in the paper, but they're there every day and they're making your team better. From a senior standpoint, I think of like Colin Sons. He's our JV quarterback, and Colin has been a 4-year player for us. He's a multi-sport athlete. He's just a consistent part of our program. He's a great leader in his own right. He just does a fantastic job, and to watch him grow over the 4 years and never ask for more playing time. I mean, he's a starter for us on specials, but he just is the example that I would use for players that coming in on what Iron Star football is and our value system. And then Chris Simmons is another 4-year player, or actually a 3-year player for us. I talked to Chris as a sophomore. I had him in class. I said, hey, you should come out for football. And he did. And it's changed his life, in my opinion. I in my 20 years, I've never seen a player improve both socially and physically as much as he has, and he has a lot to be proud of. But then there's those juniors who come in as sophomores, and it's a tough transitional year. You're now combined with another group, and we have a very talented senior-dominated group, and so it's hard not to be playing all the time. But watching the JV game yesterday and watching the attitude and passion that they played with, particularly like a Joey Curzon, who's a junior wide receiver DB, to see him excel in that game just tells us that he's on the right path. And to watch him in practice, he never misses a rep. He's either on offense or he's on defense. And it's that type of attitude that has improved his play. And that's why he's going to be a great player for us as a senior. And then the same thing could be said for like an Anthony Priami, who's a safety for us. And Anthony, again, is on this upward trend and just doing a really great job from a developmental standpoint. And oftentimes you can't see the forest through the trees as a junior because you're so impacted by not playing as much as you should. But those boys have really stood out to me amongst a ton of guys. But, those two guys have done a great job as well.
I'm curious, how have you guys approached your final week of practice? Have you guys, lightened it up a little bit? Just kind of riff on that. How's the final week of practice been?
Unfortunately, our game last week, we found out on Wednesday night that we were not going to be able to play. And we were looking for games. We put out emails and texts and DMs to a bunch of teams and nothing came through. And then so we had a drop dead time of Thursday at 3:00 and nothing came through. At that point, we shifted our focus to, okay, we've got one final week. We're playing at Northern Illinois University, which is where the state championship would be held. We have the number 2 team of the state coming to us. We're in the top 10. We feel like this is the state championship. We feel like this is as close as we could get to that type of atmosphere. And our goal is always to get to a game at the end of the season. The last game of the season is always going to be the most important for us, whether it's 2 years ago and it's a state championship game, or it's last year and we have to win to get into the playoffs. And now it's this year where if we win this game, we have a share of the conference title. We have a stake in the claim of saying we're one of the top teams in 7A football. So for us, no, we're not taking our foot off the gas. We're actually telling the kids to put their pedal down and exhaust that tank, and the staff is exhausting that tank and putting in a game plan that's as elaborate and as clean and as focused as we've had. And we're using this extra time that we've gained to really slow the pace down, not spend as much time on the field, but spend a little bit more time in the film room, breaking things down a little bit more and compartmentalizing it so that we can learn a little bit better and execute a little bit better. And for us, this is the Super Bowl. This is the biggest game of our season. And, for me as the head coach, it's been really difficult to try to navigate through these last 2 weeks because of all of the different variables that are going into it with COVID and, just trying to get to the game itself. And I want our players to have this experience very badly. I want them to be able to walk off the field on Saturday, win or lose, knowing that they accomplished something that's very special, because it is. I mean, this is the hardest season that any of us have had to go through, and to get through it is an accomplishment unto itself. But the goal of winning that game and beating a team who we've kind of gone back and forth the last couple of years. We knocked them out of the playoffs 2 years ago. Last year they knocked us out. So we've ended each other's season over the past 2 seasons. And so now we get to end both our seasons at the same time, but one of us is going to be on top. And, I have a feeling that the winner of that game is going to be in the conversation for either one or the top 2 teams in the state. And we want to be that team.
Absolutely. So when we talk about the X's and O's and your expectations for that game, what are the keys to success for the North Stars?
Well, I mean, you got to first look at Wheaton South. They're extremely talented. They have a very complete team. Probably as complete as a team as we've faced. On the offensive side, they've got a really talented quarterback in Parker Brown, he's just a playmaker. He distributes the ball extremely well. He's going to run with the ball when he needs to be. He can scramble and extend plays. And he's got this, he's got a posse of wide receivers who are as talented across the board as we've seen. Again, they kind of feed off of him, and they're able to make plays after a play breaks down. And that's really difficult from a back 7 standpoint. So in the back 7, from our linebackers to our safeties to our corners, we have to be extremely disciplined. Not only do we have to run our scheme and run it very well, but we have to then play a little backyard ball and be able to pace up when a play breaks down and not get our eyes in the wrong place. So that's going to be a huge challenge for us. Up front, I feel like they're good. I don't think any team is going to play a defensive front 4 or 5 as good as ours. So I feel like that's always going to tilt in our favor. So if we can handle the pass game and handle and contain the QB and force them to run the football, I feel like that's going to be advantageous to us. On the offensive side, for us, we have to just execute a little bit better than what we've been doing. And that's kind of the whole name of the game this week, where I alluded to, where we're slowing down the pace, making the package a little bit smaller. Let's do what we do and do it really well. Adding a few different touches here and there so we have some opportunities to exploit some things that they do defensively. They run a very similar defense to us, so we are comfortable playing against that. It's really going to be, can we handle them up front, and can we make the plays on the perimeter that we know we need to make? We got to be able to stretch the field vertically and horizontally and make them cover the entire thing. And then from special teams, they're a very good special teams unit as well, but I feel like we've taken a step up in our special teams under the leadership of Jeff Peterson, our special teams coordinator. And I feel like that's something we're spending this extra time focusing on so that we can have an opportunity to not only answer them, but then have them go to the chalkboard first and figure out how they're going to have to adjust to us based off of what we're doing. So it is just a great matchup across the board. In my opinion, it's one of the top games in the state.
My last question is just, who do you think is the pressure going to be on to really, really compete and execute this week? Who are we going to rely on?
Well, I think offensively, it comes down to the quarterback. If Michael Priami, and when Michael Priami plays the game that we know he can, it's going to be hard for Wheaton South to answer that, because he's such a dynamic QB. He can throw, he can run. I would love to see us use his feet a little bit more so we can extend some plays, kind of give them a taste of their own medicine, where maybe if a play breaks down, we're able to extend it with our athletes, because we have a great skill set as well. So it's really going to be, if he goes, we go. I'm also excited to see on the defensive side, how can we handle the quarterback from a containment standpoint? And so that's going to really fall on our linebacking group, because they have a tough job, because you got a team that runs the ball very well and a team that throws the ball well. So they're going to be kind of the linchpin between the two units of the D line and the back four. And if guys like Danny Kavaleski can contain the QB, and Zach McClure can contain the quarterback, and then George Licken out in space can be as special as he's been all season. Yeah. And Kyle Kowalczyk, Kyle Petak on the backside, if they can handle any of the weak side run game, that's going to be important, So, it never comes down to one guy. It really doesn't. That's why football is such a great game. But, I'm excited to see how those individuals respond to this stage.
Absolutely. Coach, thanks so much for your time, and good luck this week.
Thanks, Chris.